Hello and namaskar everyone to my YouTube channel The Uncut Room, where we daily discuss one editorial. And today is the 3rd of January 2026. We are going to discuss The Hindu editorial, which is based on the recent report of the GST collection. That is, the heading of this editorial is Uninviolable Choice. Growth generating capital expenditure can affect fiscal targets. So let's understand the editorial, what the author want to convey in this editorial. So recently, the goods and service tax revenue, that is 1.74 lakh crore in the December 2025, confirmed just a narrow government fiscal policy spaces. December data reflects the economic activity in November and second month under the new reduced GST rate. December revenue was marginally higher than 1.7 lakh crore collected in the November. So basically, a 2 month before the government revised its GST rate. So they are expecting much high GST collection. But if you see the revenue collected in the month of November, that is mentioned is 1.70, basically lakh crore collected in the November, and in the month of December, that is 1.74 lakh crore. That is marginal difference. So there is a no too much difference in the collection has been seen in the government revenue. So moving forward, the author conveyed that was expected because any believed that the rate reduction would lead an immediate and sustained increase in demand. Hence, GST collection was pure optimism. So suddenly, rate reduction cannot immediately and sustain the increase in demand or suddenly increase our GST collection. That is a purely hope. That is purely optimism. In reality, people are more likely to use extra money to paid up saving or paying their own debt, increase consumption, more middle term. So the people save their money and rather than spending expanding on the some goods and paying the interest or the debts they have to pay. So these happened the following the income tax regime in the budget 2025 too. The same thing is happened when the government restructure or re-revise the budget 2025 where the government exempted earning up to 12 lakh a year from the income tax. The GST and income tax decision but both welcome relaxation. However, at least this year we are going to cause the government more pain than gain. Um, so here the author conveyed that the revenue collection does not show the what the government wants to giving the some reduction in the GST rates as well as giving the exemption for the 12 lakh income. So maybe in the future it will be going to reflect. So the recent data of a government account reflect this. Total revenue stood 13 point lakh crore at the end of November 2025, which is 3.4% lower than the same period 2024 and 2025. So basically, this time the government total tax revenue is 13 point lakh crore, which is very nearly close to a 14 lakh crore, and which is the 3.4% lower than the previous year. On the other hand, center capital expenditure stood 6.8 lakh crore in the April-November 2025 period, which is 28% higher than the same period of the previous year. This jump in the capital expenditure was balanced out as slower growth revenue expenditure in 2.1%. So basically, government mainly do a two type of expenditure. That is, first one is a capital expenditure, other one is a revenue expenditure. So here they have mentioned capital expenditure that is 6.8 lakh crore in the month of April and November 2025 period, which is 28% higher than the same period. So if you see that government collection is going reduced, but their expenditure is increasing. But on the other hand, government balance out how the government balance out by expanding on the revenue expenditure that is reduced by the 2.1%. So capital expenditure is basically government building some more industries, make putting money on the construction part. These are the capital what the government expenditures comes. On the other hand, revenue expenditure are like paying salaries, pensions, interest on the loan. So these are the these are the revenue expenditure. So basically, here they have mentioned, however, two type of spending the government has much less discretion over the revenue expenditure, which comprises expenses such as salary, in pension, interest that cannot be subdued for long. So basically, they have mentioned that they have very government has very less discretion, basically very less choices government have over the revenue expenditure. So so government can reduce the capital expenditure, maybe the government extend the some industries contract, but the revenue expenditure like giving the salaries, pension, loans, interest, so these are the government things which the government cannot stretch for too long. So author want to convey that these things government should have to do on time. So government have valiantly tried to bolster its earning through a new excise and GST rate on tobacco product, not to mention the health and security cess manufactured on the partners. So basically, government recently, if you follow the news, that around 40% GST will be implemented on the tobacco product, and that will be effective only on the 1st of February. Their full benefit will be felt on the next financial year. Yet the government trouble financials does not end here. The remarkably low level of wholesale inflation this year, averaging negative 0.08 so far, that also mean to a size of a nominal GDP, which would likely to smaller than the financial. So basically, uh, um, not only the problem for the GST collection, but this year the our inflation is also going negative. That is negative 0.08. So basically, the GDP is also impact because of this. So suppose let's take an example. Suppose we have a commodity which price is around 100, and after some time, if the inflation is there, so maybe the commodity price is 110. But on the other hand, the inflation goes on negative, so it shows that government does not generate as much as revenue if the inflation is there. So that impacts our GDP, gross and domestic product. So this means the survival ratio packed more prevalently the fiscal deficit and debt GDP. So that the author want to convey in this editorial. At last, they have told it has placed to before itself an inevitable choice, basically a very difficult choice of either pulling back on the growth generating capital expenditure or risking the our fiscal targets. So now I want you will go through this editorial, and it is very helpful for you to now you will understand with much clarity. Thank you.